Welcome back, agents. It's LtBuzzLitebeer reporting in with another Division 2 weapon analysis and review. Today, I am taking a look at the exotic Ravenous Rifle introduced as part of Title Update 10 and is exclusive to the Operation Iron Horse raid. But before I begin the review, here are some basic stats and in-game info for you on the Ravenous. The country of origin is Israel. The base damage is 122.2k. The rate of fire is 240 rounds per minute. The magazine holds 60 rounds. The fire type is semi-auto only, and the reload speed is 2 seconds. Designed by Israel's Silver Shadow Firearms and built and distributed in the US by Gilboa Rifle USA, the Gilboa DBR Snake has essentially mated twin AR-15 side by side while sharing a common stock and firing the standard 5.56mm NATO round. Each barrel of the Gilboa Snake has its own independent gas block and tube, meaning it can fire multiple rounds with each trigger without the delay and recoil of the weapon cycling between trigger pulls, enabling 2 rounds on target with each trigger pull. It also has separate ejection ports, exiting spent casings from both sides of the weapon. The Snake features a twin trigger system, has a standard length of 790mm, weighs 4.9 kilograms without magazines, and uses the direct impingement gas operation system. Based on the Gilboa AR platform, the Snake has a wider upper and lower receiver to incorporate the 2 independent firing systems. The 2 parallel barrels are 3 centimeters apart from the bore center and can be calibrated for point of impact with independent adjustment screws on either barrel. The lower, as well as the integrated stock, are both made from composite materials, helping to minimize the overall weight of this weapon. The Ravenous is the new raid-exclusive exotic rifle, and this is the only way to obtain this rare weapon. Standardized mods for the Ravenous include a critical hit damage muzzle mod, stability grip, reload speed magazine mod, and a critical hit chance optic. Now, in terms of how the Ravenous compares to other rifles for base damage, the raw stats of 122.2k place it just slightly ahead of the MK17 and roughly half that of the classic M1A. For all of my tests, I used my crit build based on all offensive core attributes paired with large amounts of crit chance, crit damage, which you should always have on any rifle build, and headshot damage, all while paired with the sharpshooter specialization. As with all exotic weapons, the Ravenous features a unique talent, with this rifle showcasing Garian Frackie, named after the Hounds of Odin. Now, this talent works much the same that Binary Trigger used to for the Merciless, in that it embeds primers into targets and detonates those primers to proc specific buffs. When fired from the right shoulder, which is the default shoulder when bringing the weapon up to ADS, hits add offensive primers, and defensive primers when fired from the left shoulder. Now, in case you don't know how to switch shoulders, simply press your sprint button while aiming down the sights. Hits from one shoulder will detonate all the opposite shoulder's primaries when present. When detonated, each offensive primer deals 100% weapon damage, while each defensive primer grants plus 4% bonus armor and plus 10% amplified damage to armor plates for 5 seconds. Primer effectiveness is doubled at 10 stacks. That's a lot of weapon talent verbiage, so I'm going to break it down for you in easy to understand terms. The Ravenous fires 2 shots per trigger pull, and the idea here is that you want to land 5 trigger pulls worth of shots into a target, which should equal 10 total rounds. Now, once those primers have all landed in your intended target, switch shoulders and land a single shot to ignite all the primers. Primers fired from the right shoulder will equal large amounts of burst damage to your target once ignited, while you should switch to your left shoulder and fire primers when you need extra armor or you are taking on heavily armored targets and you want to amp up your damage versus their armor. Okay, so now on to my initial impressions of the Ravenous, and they are all favorable. Stability and accuracy are both quite high, and when fired quickly, the Ravenous does rise upwards and towards the right without corrections from the user. However, with just a little counter aim, I found this rifle easy to correct and keep on target. Even when not attempting to use the exotic talent correctly, the Ravenous still packs enough punch to drop targets through its base damage and crit bonuses from the weapon archetype and my build. Landing headshots and crits simultaneously, my Ravenous was topping 1 million per shot, and once I had landed 5 shots, switched shoulders and ignited the primers, the resulting burst damage was nearly 11 million. But let's be realistic here. Most agents are not going to count shots on target and will simply spam the trigger while periodically swapping shoulders to ignite the primers, and even then, the Ravenous is strong. I compared my maxed out classic M1A versus the Ravenous at the range versus a named elite target, and the M1A with Boomerang was hitting between 1.7 and 4.23 million and needed 7 to 8 headshots to drop the named elite target. The Ravenous was hitting the same target for right around 1 million per headshot, and then once the 5 primers were embedded, hit the target for 9 to 11 million on the shoulder switch, and would usually require 2 more follow-up shots to destroy the target. So either way, both rifles were fully destroying the same target in the same amount of rounds, but using different methods to do so. Now, if anything, I found that I needed to play a bit more aggressively to take full advantage of the Ravenous and its proc talents. You see, my normal playstyle is to play conservative and wait for targets to break cover, but this rifle rewards you for pushing forwards and firing quickly at targets, all while shoulder swapping to ignite the primers. Want more offensive punch? Land more primers from the right shoulder. Taking on an elite with armor, or need more armor as you were running low, switch to your left shoulder and land those primers. Where I found the Ravenous to truly excel was when I was being rushed by NPCs and they were attempting to run to cover. As I pushed forwards and fired non-stop while swapping shoulders to ignite the primers, it quickly led to total destruction, especially when the right shoulder primers ignited and set off the burst damage animation, and it really reminds me of the way the Merciless used to behave. Okay, so now that we've covered the background and initial impressions of the exotic Ravenous rifle, it's time to give it a rating. Based on the base damage output, easy handling, large starting magazine, and overall effects of the weapon, with buffs to damage, damage to armor, and gaining armor stacks, I'm going to rate the Ravenous a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. I mean, I really can't find much about this weapon that I did not feel as a positive attribute. If I were to really nitpick at it, I would point towards the off-center shoulder swaps, as I would be on center with the right shoulder, swap to the left, and need to pull back to the left to recenter the weapon. However, I don't want to place the blame on the weapon, as it really is centered on how the aim and shoulder swap mechanics work together. This is going to wrap up my weapon analysis and review for the exotic Ravenous Rifle, and I look forward to reading your feedback in the comment section below. If you like this type of intensive Division content in your lives, make sure to smash that sub button and ring the bell to never miss another upload notification from my YouTube channel. If you liked the video, rate it with a thumbs up, if not with a thumbs down. Links to support my full-time content creation outside of YouTube include Patreon and Teespring, both in the video description. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts concerning most things gaming related, and until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.